to Radio City Freedom Exchange once again. Kamakshi Khanna and Maalavika Manoj, aka Mali, joining me all the way from Nainital and Namma Uru, Chennai. Thank you guys so much for doing this. How are you?
Good.
Yeah, good. So far, so good.
Both of you have put out such amazing music in 2020. I have to first begin with celebrating both your songs, Absolute and Kareeb. Both which have seen some unprecedented numbers and, which have really reached out and, made the mark, given the adverse times that we are living in right now. I want to ask both of you, and please take your turns in this. When you guys were conceiving your respective songs, what was that one particular thought or that one particular propeller that, compelled you to put out your release?
So, Kareeb is actually a song that's been scheduled to release for a very long time, but just it all ended up happening during the lockdown. Um, but I think it all worked out in a really nice way because I got to work with really interesting people all remotely, um, develop a story that otherwise we probably wouldn't have stumbled upon. Um, and I feel like it happened at the right time for whatever reason. And I think sometimes when your resources are so limited, when the world is your oyster and you can do everything and do all kinds of videos, you sometimes feel you tend to take those things for granted. But since our resources were so limited, the people we could work with were so limited remotely, I think what we made happen was a really fun, amazing, and really like eye-opening experience to be able to do something like that all by ourselves. And I'm sure like even Mali, like your video is beautiful for Absolute, and making it happen during the lockdown must have been a crazy experience. So yeah, I think the main reason I wanted to put this song out and why we chose the story and the narrative that we chose was because the story is about this. The video is what makes the song about self-love, but if you really listen to the lyrics, it's just a very cheesy, happy love song. And I feel like that's something we could really all use a little bit of, just feeling comfortable with ourselves and being whole in our own company. So I kind of wanted to talk about that because that's an experience that I relate to the most in this current situation. So yeah, that's why we did what we did.
Weird. I feel like I wrote the song some years back, around the time that demonetization happened, and I think the general feeling was that everyone was disillusioned by corruption and people in power taking advantage of it. And so, yeah, Absolute was written as a sort of surrender song to absolute power. Um, and I hadn't worked on it for a while. When it came to working on this album, we'd gotten down to recording it. We finished tracking the album and all of the recording stuff that we need to do. Actually, Kamakshi and I, we did that session where we sang the backing vocals at the end. That was the last time I went to Island City, like the proper studio experience.
Yeah, that was the last
So,
studio.
and when I watched videos of that day back, and it's so sad. Like I just look at us smiling and we're so happy, and we have no idea what's to come. Like who's gonna tell us?
Yeah.
Uh, and the lockdown happened. I moved back to Chennai just as Kamakshi moved to UK with her parents. I'm back here at TN, and yeah, I had to figure out shooting a music video in the midst of the lockdown with a really tight crew, and it was a huge risk that we were taking, but just managed to make it happen by the skin of our teeth, And very shortly after we shot the video, I actually tested positive for COVID, so it was like a crazy experience. But at the end of the day, I feel like what's going to matter down the line is, what we've released and how, under what circumstances we put them out. So I think it's important to just keep pushing and keep doing it.
Ladies, actually, this period particularly has been productive also for musicians in general, but it has also been very, very adverse and very, very taxing also. I mean, given the spike in releases in the last couple of months, like suddenly it's like everybody is on a roll, everybody wants to be heard, everybody wants to be discovered. In a way, the lockdown period has proven to be a disguise for many musicians out there. But it can also be very, very pressurizing on one's personal health also. So given, such situations, how have the two of you managed to, stay afloat and keep your spirits high?
For me, honestly, it's been really inspiring to see so many people release so much music. And totally, it can also be pressurizing. There is a tendency we all have to like compare ourselves to others and wonder if we're doing enough, whatever that enough is. But um, I think for me, it's been honestly really nice because I mean, I was just talking to my friends about this, who are also musicians. There were so many things we would do and so much energy we would put into things that now feel a little unnecessary, because we know how possible it is to really just do everything from the comfort of our own homes and remotely. Of course, we really, really miss gigs. That's what we like live for. Like when we started doing music, a lot of us, the goal was to like perform live, and right now that's a big question mark. So that's definitely kept us all, like it's a very scary and uncertain feeling to have. But I think mostly just we've never had this creative freedom that we have right now, as much as we might not feel as inspired because you need experiences to find that inspiration, but there is so much time. And I'm just really, really immensely proud of everyone who's being able to gather the courage, the motivation to get up and create something artistic and find inspiration in like the limitations of the four walls that we're surrounded by, and like are like finding that inspiration from within. So that's been a really, like, of course it's been a challenging experience, but also a really reassuring thing that no matter what happens, if you have you and you have your art, then life can be worthwhile and it can be really nice. Yeah.
I mean, it's a crazy time for sure. Like everybody's been battling something or the other. Like there's some people, obviously having mental health related things that they need to address. Some people are having financial issues. Some people are having issues with their families, with their loved ones. So everybody's kind of fighting their own little battle right now. But
Hmm.
what's interesting is all of the battles that everyone's fighting are things that people have put off. It's not that they've suddenly become problems in this time. It's things that were always problems, but we've kept ourselves distracted to an
Hmm.
extent that we've just not sat down and wondered if this is the right way to go. And because you've had the time, because you've had the confines of these four walls, um, we're beginning to address a lot of things we were blind to before. And I think in a way that's a good thing, even though it might not
Yeah.
be pleasant in the short run, it has to happen.
No.
It's,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
I saw this like meme that says, I feel like the world has just put us in our rooms and asked us to think about what we've done. Like we're all kind of grounded, and it just, yeah, it gives us a lot to think about, and more than just you and your own goals and dreams. Like it's just about the larger scheme of things, and I think we're all more like extremely distant, but a lot more connected with a larger problem that's at hand. So yeah.
So how hopeful are both of you? Because now suddenly we see a lot of closed door gigs happening. Some of the live spaces have also resumed. Live gigs. I think Delhi is one of them. There are a couple of venues that are opening up now for live gigs. NH7 Weekend has announced its lineup for at the end of the year, which will happen at Vagator in Goa. Uh, but is there a sense of skepticism? Is there a sense of uncertainty for you guys as musicians? Will there be a second thought, wanting to go out there, go up on the stage and perform?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. But what's been really confusing for me personally is like, I'm very paranoid about, like, I've seen that people are responding to this situation very differently, which is completely fine. Like, there's some people who are going about doing their work, being safe, but I'm definitely, it's safe to say I'm one of the most paranoid people. Like, I've not met a single friend this lockdown. I've just been stuck at home with my family, and like, any kind of exposure really gives me a lot of anxiety as a person. And that is a fear that I have, that am I lagging behind if I'm really not putting myself at risk and putting myself out there. But I also like I also kind of, I feel like I've made that decision for now to just stay put and be happy with whatever it is that I have, even if that means I don't get to do gigs for a while. But I think it's really important that if you're if I do put myself in that situation, I do want to know if their protocol is being followed, if it's safe for everybody, if it's lesser number of people. Like I wouldn't just put myself in a situation where it's like 100 people, and that's happening with like there are a lot of weddings that are happening with 100, 200 people. They're getting bans, and how like it's very unlikely that everybody would get tested in that kind of a situation. So there are lots of every step is a question mark, honestly, and there's no real answer. Like, it's not like we can totally shut down opportunities because we also, it's our bread and butter and that's what we do. Performing is our source of income. But I feel like right now the uncertainty is what's really personally weighing down on me in terms of like where, how, what, like how do you navigate through this whole experience and also stay safe and also be responsible to others. Like it's very confusing. That's all. I don't really have a clear answer to that. Yeah.
I think I've been kind of the opposite of Kamakshi. Like I've been actually meeting friends quite often. It's sometimes I think that like if I didn't, I would die from something else. Like
Yeah.
it's just I feel like I need it so much. I like the stimulation of being around people
Mm.
and feeling like it's just like even if the world is collapsing around me, I feel like if I meet like a friend, I'm like, hey, what's up? We have a drink, then it feels like, for a short while, all is well with the world. And so
Mm.
for me, that's something that has been keeping me going.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, the paranoia and the whole thought that, okay, fine, now gigs, as we know it, will not be the case for, who knows, 6 months to a year. Everybody has a different response to it. But
Mm.
the good thing is, like you said, there are people starting out programming gigs, like, Antisocial in Bombay is opening up this month.
Mm.
And
Oh.
yeah, they've already started like programming some bands and stuff. 150 capacity, but they're doing it.
Yeah.
And it's important that someone starts because otherwise the world is going to get used to not having something. We have to create the demand for it to exist, and it has.
Mm.
We are the ones who have to break the cycle because we're the ones dependent on the industry, not people who pay to come to our shows. So
Yes.
I think it's got to start with us. It's got to start with eventually us putting ourselves out there, kind of like soldiers, in battle, just saying, okay, fine, for the sake of the industry, for the sake of things kind of getting better, I will
Yeah.
step on stage and face 150 people and
Yeah.
take precautions. But I mean, also, I don't know how it is to sing into a mic with a mask on. That's probably like, oh, God. Uh,
Exactly.
But yeah, I think we are the ones who have to break that cycle. I'm pretty sure we, as in the industry, not the audience.
And yeah, definitely the fact that NH7 is happening was so reassuring and comforting to just see, like it just felt familiar and you were like, okay, something is back. Like it felt like the whole community was back to doing its thing. So yeah,
Correct. And
that's
like I think in the beginning of this year when the lockdown started, like the Weekender was kind of like the
good.
timestamp at the end of the year for when festivals are its peak. So just like, oh, what will
Awesome.
happen when Weekender and stuff happen? Will it be okay by then? And they did
Yeah.
it. Weekender. Not bad.
It's interesting actually, Mali and Kamakshi, you share very contrasting views on, the live gig scene because I was just reading an interview of Kamakshi where she said that I don't want to be an inclusion in Bollywood anyway. I would like to sing a song where people would recollect that song and say it's a Kamakshi Khanna song and not a Deepika Padukone song, which is completely ironical to what Mali believes because Mali says that she would love, I mean, she's worked with Harris Jairaj and Anirudh Ravichandra down south, who are very established composers themselves. And Mali believes that it's, for her to retain her independent pursuits, it's important that she invests herself even in commercial mainstream projects also.
So
So where do you both weigh?
In an
I
ideal world, I would like what Kamakshi wants as well, which is to,
so
have whatever work that we've done, our names being credited. Because, like, very often people say, "Oh, this is a Shah Rukh Khan song," but like he's done nothing for the music or the composition. It's just like that's ridiculous. Any other part of
so
the world say that people will assume that that's the singer or the composer, but not in
yeah.
India.
But that interview, by the way, that's on, I don't know, I don't know what station it is. That is which one? Sorry. Yeah, that's a very sorry, but very irresponsibly like written article, to be honest, because all I said was like I remember having this conversation with a journalist and they were like, "So do you see yourself in Bollywood?" And I was like, "That's not really my priority right now." That's literally all I said. And that's like the headline. The headline of that article is Kamakshi
Oh,
Khanna's dream is not to be in Bollywood. But when you talk about someone's dream, you talk about what the dream is now, not what the dream is not. So honestly, I'm very happy to like I mean, I moved to Bombay for one of those reasons. I was like, you know what, let's open up some avenues into the whole commercial space because I don't really draw that boundary that it's commercial in India. I feel like the more we kind of merge the two, the bigger our whole scene will be in the long run. So I am very happy to sing a song with Deepika Padukone in it and be happy to be associated. So that's just like not like the correct thing that was projected on that article, but definitely I do still think it's very important to have your own sound, even if that means you
Yeah.
compromise on it sometimes for certain songs, just for that experience and to really branch out. But I think having my own sonic identity is definitely a priority for me, no matter what. Yeah, so that's where I stand.
this thing that happened to Kamakshi, it happened to me too. I did an interview in college for a newspaper,
Mm.
and they asked me things like, so, in college, how do you juggle your music and your studies? And I'm just like, studies.
Mm.
But they were like, so do you also like bunk college like regular college kids? And I said, I mean, yeah, who doesn't bunk college? But I make sure I keep my attendance up so I pass. Um,
Yeah.
the newspaper article was like literally that was one line in the interview, and it was a full page spread. But the title of the article was Band Baja and Bunking.
Oh, good.
And I walked into college the morning that this article has come out, and my HOD is sitting with the newspaper like this, and this page is there, and he's just like, "What is this?"
I'm
And
so sorry. Horrible.
yeah, it was one of those awkward moments. But like people don't realize that sometimes in journalism and interviews they take things out of context to
Totally.
sort of enlist a sort of reaction from people, but it's not always true.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Ladies, honestly, I mean, how do you react to, when people address you as female singer-songwriters? I'm sure at one point it must be ticking you off, to constantly have your gender prefix before your profession. So how do you, I mean, I'm sure it's not a connotation you would like to hear every now and then. Like you don't need to be reminded about your gender if you're doing music, right?
So
Definitely. I think we had this conversation. I think the real win will be when we're just not asked, like spoken of as female musicians and just as musicians. But I also know that we're not enough right now. We're not enough female musicians in the scene. There are not enough producers, there are not enough instrumentalists, there are not even enough singer-songwriters. So I do think it's it's like we're like I'm just happy that we're all a part of like taking the step in the right direction and you know really building the scene, but also um, don't know if don't know how long we'll be really referred to as female musicians because sometimes it's exhausting to keep hearing that again and
and
again.
sometimes it feels like you're a sort of token or you're filling a quota, like it's, I
Yeah,
mean, usually you knows this, but so
absolutely.
often you get programmed for a festival or for some panel thing, and you know
Yeah.
that you're just there for representation reasons. And
Hmm.
that's actually worse than not being called because suddenly you're starting to second guess your own credibility and whether you would be there if you were a guy, even if you were equally talented or not.
Hmm.
So sometimes you start overthinking these things, and obviously there's two ways to look at it. Some people are all about I want to identify as just an artist and not a female anything, um, and they go down this path of I won't take on gigs which is like female only. I
Hmm.
know artists who wouldn't take on gigs that are female only something, women's something, and girl
Hmm.
power this and all of that. And
Hmm.
the other way of looking at it is, Amit Gurbaksani, the journalist, he actually posted an
Yeah.
article that said that
Exactly.
6% of indie musicians in India are female. 6%, not even 10. It's not even one of 10 people that's like one of 20 you might find a chick. That's how less we are in number in this micro industry. So you can just imagine in grander
Mm.
scale. So I think it's going to
Yeah.
take a while before we are equally represented, and that's going to start with getting more girls to go and learn music and play gigs. It's not easy. Like Kamakshi and I, at least we were lucky that we had parents who kind of supported us. And maybe not even supported, but weren't against us to do this, you know.
Mm.
And
Exactly.
we're lucky. We're the lucky ones. There's so many talented girls who've been pushed into other careers, but their heart is in this. They
Yeah.
just don't. They're not lucky enough to be able to pursue it. So it's going to start there. Like when policing stops in homes, when girls
Mm.
are not told, "Oh, you have to learn vocals because you're a girl,"
Mm.
and why don't you learn drums because it's an instrument at the end of the day. When
Mm.
these things happen, is when we're actually going to see a change in things like this. So
Absolutely.
it's going to take a while. It's not going to
Mm.
happen in the next years or something.
Also, like the whole safety aspect of it. Like, I feel like even if a lot of parents would be happy for their daughter to like be a musician, it's it is I don't know about you, Mali, but like I've been in situations where I've been like, oh my God, I'm alone right now performing on stage, and just there's this paranoia that's pretty much always there where you can't really feel. And coming from Delhi, honestly, like I've I've just come to terms with the fact that me being alone in the night in a public place without anybody around me is just it's never going to totally make me feel safe. And to constantly kind of make that choice to put myself out there on stage where you're basically asking for attention, in that situation is really like um, is not easy for everybody to come to terms with. I feel, and I feel like the most safer also we become as a society, like apart from our parents also supporting what we do, that's also a really important thing to take into consideration for women to feel comfortable being musicians. And this is a conversation that it didn't really strike me, but after talking to a lot of women, because I was also teaching in a music school and just talking to people who are upcoming musicians, that is a concern. When will women like really feel safe putting themselves out there, traveling alone, touring alone? Mali and I have like, we've traveled together, carried like a bunch of
It's so of
instruments.
this. Both of us.
So like
We're like
we know what.
10 wax. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it's really amazing and reassuring to have that kind of to look at, a fellow musician do exactly that and be like, okay, you're not alone. And we just
Like
need to remind people that it's, yeah. Sorry,
Kamakshi
what's
and I relate to each other in ways that me and her, and like maybe another male singer songwriter, if you want to call it that,
it?
wouldn't, like because we have a separate set of things. We sometimes come across like minor sexism, like when you
Mm,
go to a gig and then there's like a sound engineer who's like, "Let me show you how to set up a mic stand."
yeah,
You're just
yeah,
like, "Oh, I've been doing this for only 7 years. I think the basic thing I can do is set up a mic stand." But it's this
yeah.
feeling of, oh, you're a chick, so there's an extent to where how much you can do or how much you know, and there's like, it's not comfortable. We're used to it now, and this is a thing that only we'll see. Like a dude
Mm.
in the same place wouldn't see it.
Totally. Like there was this one time where the sound engineer literally went to my guitarist and said, can I talk to you about EQing? Because women don't know much about it. Like literally, he said that. He said in ladies लोग को EQ के बारे में मालूम नहीं है. Like I agree that at that point I didn't really understand what an equalizer is, but not because I'm a woman, like and so that's a kind of sexism. That's like blatant sexism, but she's totally right. Like you'll also find situations in which when it comes about like comes to the technical side of things, they always address your band members first.
Yeah, that I've seen so
Even though
much.
you're the band leader, you are the person who's on the this thing. Like still about the technical things, about the moving things around, instrumentation. Mali and I'm very proud to say, we can carry a whole like instruments worth a whole band. Like both of us have literally carried like
So
a
easily
keyboard on our back.
in terms of gear, we carry on to flights, off flights. But this has happened, this whole thing of talking to the band members, like I've been in that position where, Tejas and I play a gig. It's literally the
Hmm,
two of us.
hmm,
And, I'd say like, I need this, I need this many cables for this, that needs to go in here. I'll tell them the whole flow. and then they listen to me, and then they'll turn to Tejas and then say, "Tell her this," like as if
Yeah.
I probably don't know what they say, so I can't understand. And it's like really, it's a little demoralizing and demeaning. It's just like uh, you start to think. You start to think a little bit about like, you think, oh yeah, we're living in an equal world. We're living in urban India. It doesn't happen. It's a music industry. It totally happens.
Yeah,
Just very few of us to talk about it.
No,
exactly.
definitely we're discussing all of this. So I'm really happy to have the two of you this afternoon. Thank you so much for joining Mali and Kamakshi. More power to you, both of you as singers. More power to your friendship. More power to some amazing music coming our way. And it's just you know all the more fun for us as listeners. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much, Vijayalakshmi. That was great.